It is absolutely phenomenal how quickly this real estate market is changing. Last week, I'd recommend to the majority of new sellers that we should list low and we should hold offers and see what happens, because if we don't get an offer that they're happy accepting on presentation day, we just cancel and relist for what they want to sell for. But now in this week, I'm recommending to the majority of sellers to go back to traditional listing, no more holding offers. Because in the past few days, I've actually seen sellers lose money by listing low. Properties being sold for $30,000, $40,000, even $50,000 less than what I initially anticipated they could go for. So here's exactly how these sellers lost money by listing low and holding presentation dates, as opposed to now going back to traditional listing. And the fault or consequence of this solely falls onto the listing entity. And by listing entity, I mean whether that is an online brokerage, a real estate professional, or a real estate team that these sellers decided to work with. In this case, it comes down to two factors. Number one, there was not enough discussion had on the actual value of this real estate, because these properties that I saw, there were direct comparables within a $5,000 to $15,000 adjustment of exactly how much it should have sold for. So when I saw that this property sold for $835 as opposed to the nearest comparable at $875, I was a little shocked. And I think there was not enough discussion had about this is exactly what your property is worth, and here's what we have to show proof of it. And the comparable is to dictate what this price is. And the follow-up, or number two to that, is on the listing end, there was not enough confidence in being able to achieve that goal, which resulted in these sellers accepting a lower offer than initially anticipated because they felt internal pressure to do so. I wholeheartedly believe that more could have been achieved in these sales, and that this pressure was much more internal and just kind of made up as opposed to external pressures. A lot of sellers, they don't need to sell, they want to sell. I keep saying that because they just built up so much equity in the last 2 years. But with this specific scenario, this townhouse should have went for $860, $875 in my records. They ended up selling for $835 or $830, as I mentioned. We actually met with the sellers last year. They ended up listing with a different agent, not a local agent, it was from the city. And when I came across this sale, I was shocked, especially since I know that these sellers weren't in a financial crunch to need to sell that quickly. They could have canceled and they could have relisted for a higher price and held on to that property for at least 10, 15, or 20 more days. But in this scenario, if this out-of-town agent wasn't confident enough on the price that they could have got for this townhouse, then there was definitely that pressure for the sellers to say, hey, this is the best we have after 5 days of being on the market and holding offers. We should take it because who knows, maybe we're at the top of the market right now. Maybe this is our last chance to get the best offer. As a local agent, I'll tell you that in Barrie, that's not the case. If you can't get what you want and if you don't have a definitive value that is achieved, cancel and relist for what you want and stay on the market for a little longer. Having that pressure and mindset of this is our last chance is the reason why these sellers lost money by listing low and holding offers. And had they just canceled and relisted for a higher price and let the agent or the listing entity that they're working with continue to do good marketing on the property, they likely could have found a higher paying buyer, because those buyers are out there. For that property that sold for $875 or $860 on that street, there was 3 weeks ago a lineup of buyers willing to pay very, very close to that, at least $850, $855. But $835, that's significantly below what I anticipated this property to go for, and I have a couple examples to go through with that. But if the listing entity was more confident in the product and they could say without question that this property is worth more than $835, it's worth $850 or $855, they cancel, relist, and say, hey, I'm gonna find you a buyer, we're gonna continue to do great marketing, and I know we can sell this place for $855, as opposed to maybe saying, you know, this is kind of what we're doing, the market's shifting. I'm guessing that conversation wasn't had in depth, and the sellers decided that this was the best they're gonna get, and they're gonna sign this offer and move on, as opposed to cancel, relisting, and going back to the traditional route. So that's how sellers right now are losing money by holding offers and setting presentation dates. We're in this modern world of real estate and technology that requires you to pivot very, very quickly. Look just how quickly the market shifted. I said before in 2017, it took 3 weeks to do. It seems like over the weekend, the entire market shifted from a hardcore seller's market to a buyer's market. And obviously the strategies and marketing techniques need to change as well. And unfortunately, not everybody on the listing end or listing entity, whether that be a real estate professional, a real estate team, a brokerage, online, whatever you're using, unfortunately not everyone knows how to pivot that quickly. As a seller, regardless of how you choose to sell your property or who you choose to work with, they need to actively be working to sell your property in tomorrow's market, not yesterday's. And obviously, to end it off, great marketing has always achieved better results. It seems like and it feels like you could have just a couple months ago, even a couple weeks ago, taken photos on your cell phone, put it on the MLS, and the spread between a property that had a really great marketing and someone that took photos on their phone and just posted or even reused old MLS photos was really, really close. But now that market has shifted and that ship has sailed. If you want to get the highest price for your property, you're going to need to go back to the traditional route of having great marketing, a great product on the market, because you are now competing with all the other listings out there. So just make sure that however you're going to sell your property, yourself, brokerage, real estate professional, whatever it might be, that they're actively working to, again, market your property and sell it in tomorrow's market and not yesterday's market, because clearly yesterday's market is we're behind that now. People are losing money in yesterday's market. You wanna focus on tomorrow's market. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree. If you are a buyer, have you seen this happen? If you're a real estate agent, have you also seen this potentially happen? If you come across some sales and be like, wow, that sold for a lot less than I expected it, but you know that right next door, the street over, prices aren't dropping just yet. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.